for greenwash. They are basically painting a story like they're doing what needs to be done for the climate and ecological emergency.
There'll be a big greenwashing effort in Glasgow that needs to be called out and recognized.
There's two things I'll focus on here. One of them is claims of being carbon neutral. So today we often see that high emitting companies claim that their businesses or perhaps their products are already carbon neutral. And that we see as a real red flag. Because what it is, unfortunately, is it's a fictional accounting for carbon, what companies call carbon offsetting. But the problem that we have is that carbon offsets don't actually cancel out the emissions from fossil fuels. And they can't critically replace what we need to do, which is to drastically reduce burning coal, oil and gas. Companies can't use carbon offsets to reassure consumers that they're actually acting on climate change, but they nevertheless often just label it carbon neutral. There are more and more companies putting out promises of reaching net zero by 2050. We think that the easiest way to tell if that is credible is just to look to see if it's clearly backed up by immediate action. The science here is clear. It says we need to reduce emissions by at least half by 2030. That's in the next 9 years. So the question we'd ask is, why isn't a company with a net zero target talking about what percentage of its overall emissions it's reducing in the next 3 years, in the next 5 years, in that sort of time frame? Companies, particularly oil and gas companies, have some emissions that come from their operations, but the vast majority of their emissions come from their products. And so when they're not being completely clear about the amount of emissions that they're going to cut from their overall emissions and including those of their products, then you get a real risk of greenwashing. So we see that greenwashing is creeping well outside the oil and gas industry. So this is the key transition areas, things like energy, things like cars, planes, home heating, meat, and also, of course, the finance sector that supports them. Although we see that some environmental marketing claims are legitimate, many do give an impression which isn't backed up by action. We can't use any more empty promises of climate action or reassuring messages. We need real action on real emissions to reduce them in line with Paris Agreement goals.